Hello everyone, and I'm finally here with some tutorial videos. Now, bear with me because I don't really think about how I draw things a lot, so this is gonna be fun. But today's video, if you haven't guessed, is gonna be how I draw hands and how I can hopefully teach you how to draw hands. We'll find out. So we're gonna start with, I think we're gonna start with this top hand here. Okay, now generally my process in drawing hands is I've learned two things, and the first thing is how we're gonna do with a general hand in front of us is the shape of the palm tends to be not quite rounded and not an even, like, is it pentagon? No. It has 5 sides, let's put it this way. 5 sides to create like the shape of a palm. Now, I've probably made this one a little bit thin, but you can see we've got line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. Now, the reason why there's kind of this little point here is I've learned, if you look, it's a good way to divide where the pointer finger is gonna go. Then, you know, on this side, you can kind of block in an arch, because fingers are not all the same height as you may have seen with your own hands, or other people's hands if you haven't got hands. Sorry. And then you get like this kind of triangle shape off the side for the thumb. And that is like the basic core of how I draw hands. Of course, you gotta get into the complicated knuckles and all that jazz, but just we're gonna start with simple for this. Now, I'm gonna divide this section here into 3, but I'm also gonna give it a bit of dynamic movement, because like not all the fingers stay stuck together, right? So we can get away with kind of this, and then this. Generally, you won't use this position for hands very often, so this is why we're making this the beginning. But you just get an idea of how I do the basics into a hand. Alright, so we've got our like first hand. Very simple. I'm not going to go into detailing it. I don't do a lot of detail in my baseline art anyway. I'm trying to learn how to apply that better through color, which I might do in another video. We'll see. But that's our basic for a hand. And now you're gonna go, yeah, I know that, but how do I draw other kinds of hands? How do I draw like more fun hands, like more interesting ones? So, for example, I think we'll start with this one next. This one's a bit of a crazy one. Now, obviously with this, you can't actually see what the hand is doing, but you've got to rely a bit on like understanding 3D space. Just because you see this doesn't get rid of this part of the hand. And in fact, whilst you have your basic shape of the hand, like this, we can agree, basic shape of the hand there, that doesn't take away from the fact that the hand goes back here, but we've got like our thumb getting in the way. And we've also got the interesting way to apply our visible index finger. Alright, and so what I generally do in this sort of scenario is I will break, I think that's way too long, I will break the finger into like 2 lines with a kind of middle point there, okay? Because I don't often draw them with 3 knuckles. I usually draw hands with 2. I know, it's lazy, but it works for me. So, anyway, once we've got an understanding that this, let me get another pencil so I can show you. This line here, these ones here, are all the front of what we can see. Does that make sense? Like, we can see all of this. Here, do a bit of detail on the thumb, just so you can understand from the reference. Right, we've got this kind of, we stop at the knuckle. That is kind of the hand shape. I probably should have made it a bit bigger, but we'll just accept that this is what we've got now, okay? But that's the front of the hand. And then the pink is going to be the back of the hand, but if we just get in our finger so that it's there, again, those 2 lines, bringing them in, because this is more of a side view as well, we want to remember that the fingers are kind of squishy with muscle, so we want to just make sure that we give a bit of an impression of that by just applying a gentle curve. It doesn't need to be extreme, just a little bit of a curve to give it some shape and some feeling. Now, behind the scenes, behind the main bit, we've got our hand, which, if you remember our shape, you can kind of get that shape going on already, because this drawing is at an angle. And I'll just move my fingers out of the way. Even though my thumb comes down and would like obstruct, I can't hold this the exact same way. But you can see here, there is part of the palm in the background, which is what we want to get in this drawing. And we don't need to do a lot just to put that impression in, because this background, it's not going to be as highlighted. But we're going to follow a similar principle. We're going to follow these fingers. I'm probably going to want to just make this one, because we're not going to see some of the knuckles out in there. And we're getting these in. And you don't really see the little finger. But it would be in this space here. I mean, we may see like a tip of it, depending on the angle, because obviously I've drawn this slightly different from that one. My hand's going more away from us, but we're keeping it simple for today's video. But you can kind of see how the green makes up the front of the hand and the pink makes up the back. And so when you put it all together, and just add a bit of stretch lines for the skin that comes across between the kind of hand, the fingers and the thumb, this section, this interesting bit of skin. The them is mainly 2 shapes anyway, and it doesn't require too much. And it's okay if, like, your lines don't fully match what you had going on in the background. But that gives us our hand. And so now we've got 2 hands done. We're gonna draw a 3rd hand, and I think for this one, I'm gonna find a hand where we have it holding something like a pencil. It's not so good. Let me find a good reference for y'all. Here we go. We could do holding a pencil. I think we're gonna do this one here. And this one's a lot different because it requires some perspective thinking, because most of the palm of the hand is hidden, but it would still be there. Like so. Now, for getting this pen in, I'm gonna start with just a line to indicate where a pen is. Remember, when you're doing kind of your baselines, it's okay to get suggestive about where you're putting stuff. We gotta get this knuckle in here for the index finger, and then again we're gonna just look over here for the other knuckles of the other fingers. I'm gonna zoom in just so you can see a bit better, like so. And you can see we've got these fingers are gonna be coming around from these points that we've made for our little knuckles. Now, with the first finger, what I can tell you is it's an interesting one of perspective of, like, because it's coming closer to us, we're gonna give it this kind of interesting kind of, I would say, partial cone shape for that finger, and then it comes around. Oh, I drew the line for the pencil the wrong way. And then, so if I just correct that so you can see where that line for that pencil is with the green, we just go over that in that. There's our pencil. And our finger is gonna be sort of there. Now it looks longer, but remember, technically we've got our 3 knuckles, but again, I don't usually draw them unless it requires that kind of emphasis. And we've got our first finger. And again, these ones do a similar thing. We're just going to write in the lines to sort of guide where we're going with the rest of them. Now, this one looks a little bit chunkier, but it doesn't come right up to the knuckle this time. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a gap. And a little flick, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's this little, ever so slight flick to indicate kind of where the skin is going to be stretching around. And then we're going to bring this one, and because the fingertips do tend to bend in a little bit here on this one, I'm going to bend it so we do actually have the 3 knuckles. And again, because most of this one is hidden, you can't really use a kind of scale, but I would suggest kind of making the front finger, the front middle part of your finger, kind of longer in this kind of perspective to really kind of emphasize the holding of something like this pencil. And then you're just going to use those lines to kind of guide the other attempts at doing the fingers. And then with the little finger, it's a little bit trickier because it tends to hide a lot more than some of the others. So even though you do see some of that bend, you're not going to see that fingertip because it's tucked behind this finger. Like that. You can kind of see how it's like tucked behind a little bit more than the others, and that's fine. And in this case, you don't really see the palm so much, so I'm going to bring the wrist in to kind of hide it a little bit more. And we've got that, and then we do have the thumb over here. Now I'm going to put in a little triangle shape. As you can see, we've got like more of a triangle shape. That's the trick. So when you're drawing anything really is to figure out what the shape's doing first, and then you can play around with like adding details. So we've now got our lovely little triangle for our thumb, and it does seem to be a bit more front facing. So with this, a lot of your detail is going to come more from putting in the thumbnail to get that bit of perspective going on. And we've got that hint of this skin here again. And one of the things you can do to sort of create a bit of emphasis on the knuckles is you just ever so slightly create like a little bump where the knuckles are gonna be. You can do it in these ones and this one, because it kind of curves inward but very gently. You don't want to over emphasize it too much. And with the little finger, we're just gonna kind of leave it because it's a lot more solid, like so. But there you've got your hand, and we can just bring the details of this pencil in. It's actually a pen, I'm now realizing, but the same principles apply. It's just get those details in. I think we'll add like a little kind of rubber on the end of this one. But y'all can see how this hand is like wrapped around, but it's very subtle in the curves that it does. And so, at the end of the day, the biggest piece of advice that I could give anyone when drawing hands is to just break it down. So, we'll do another quick one. We'll do this one. It looks a bit complicated, but we just need to break it down. So when we break this down, we've got a kind of four-sided shape here. Like, let me just shift this over because I'm running out of room. We got this four-sided shape here. With this round base that's gonna form a circle for our wrist. If you're ever in doubt, that's how you can help figure out where your wrist is gonna sit on this. Now, some of this has got like this shape going on. Because again, we've got that divide between the front and the back of what we can see. But we're gonna have our index finger's knuckles gonna be over here. Then we've got our main. Then we've got our ring finger, and then we've got our pinky finger. So you can see. Now in this one, the middle finger is in the foreground. And again, we got those two lines just to figure out where our finger is, what it's doing, like so. Now, even though we can't see the other knuckle, we can use that as a reference point to be like, this is where our index finger is coming in. I'd say this one's a little big, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna shorten it. And remembering to add those curves. I may have curved that a bit too much. Whoop. But it's okay. Then we got this finger, which is our ring finger, coming out, and it's coming in front of the middle finger, which I'm just going to make a little bit longer. Oh, I see what I did wrong there. See, even I'm capable of making mistakes. Ain't no stress though. Here's our index fingers there. Index finger is in the background, middle finger's there, here's our ring finger. My apologies. I'm only human after all, so mistakes happen, but that's okay. It's all part of learning and getting better. So, but now that we've got our ring finger, we go in here. We need our little finger, which is going to be shorter again. Because we can see some of the side of the hand, like so. We're gonna, like that. Then our thumb, which will be in the background, so I'm gonna do it in green this time. Green in the background. Our thumb's gonna be over here. Now, the trick with the thumb is I tend to do it in two shapes. The base of the thumb is a big kind of oval shape, as you see here. And then a slightly smaller oval shape for the tip of the thumb. And depending on the angle, it just kind of changes how much of an oval that shape really is. So we've got our thumb in the background, like so. And as you can see, once you break things down into smaller steps, just keep it simple and straightforward, it becomes a lot easier to put together what your hand is going to be doing. From then on. So, I think that about wraps it up for this hand tutorial video, which has been surprisingly long. If you have any requests for how-to videos, drop a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, by the way. I'm live on TikTok 3 times a week, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. I usually post on my TikTok story about half an hour before. You can find me as Dan the Art Gremlin, or check the links below. And until next time, folks, have a great day. Bye.